Today I'm going to start the new model termed as named as annotations and JDBC Java database connectivity. So another important and interesting topic in JDBC is annotations. Annotations and JDBC is the fourth module. The following topics will be discussing in this module: built-in annotations with example. So many annotations already we gone through during the coding of your Java applications like JSP, servlet, right? So some of the annotations at the rate, override, at the rate, deprecation, at the rate, retention policy, etc. and so on. Most of so frequently we use this at the rate override. So the method which you are going to use in our current context with the existing classes, you are required to override the methods. So the annotation which will give the special meaning to your Java code. Most of the latest versions, Java 1.5 onwards, most of the compilers it supports the built-in annotations, which will give the clarity with respect to your code. So the custom annotations here, we are going to create our own annotations with the help of the existing one. So this our first two topics with respect to related to the annotations. Then third topic to the 14 topics, which it is related to the JDBC concept, Java database connectivity. It's a most important and widely used in the professional development of your web application, which uses the Java technology. So talking to the database, immediate solution with respect to the talking to database, essential JDBC program, or using prepared statement object, interactive tool, interactive SQL tool, JDBC in action, result sets, patch updates, mapping, basic JDBC data types, advanced JDBC data types, and immediate. It's a big chapter. JDBC itself is a big chapter and interesting one. So most interesting one chapter, this one, JDBC. So before move on to JDBC discussion, let us discuss about the annotations. What do you mean by annotation? So annotations are metadata or data about the data. So in database concept, DBMS, description about a database is called as database catalog. Here, description about the Java code is called as annotation. Description, annotations are metadata, means data about the data. So data about the data is called as annotations. An annotation indicates that the declared element should be processed in special way. If you are declaring a variable, if you are declaring a method, if you are defining a method, if you are declaring a class, if you are defining the inheritance of the class, it is providing some special way. It is providing some process. It is providing some special way, special meaning to that, to a compiler or to a development tool, to a deployment tool, or during runtime. So in the case of do post method, do get method, we used override. That annotations which will tells the compiler that the do post or do get method, which is redefined by the user, which is exist with the HTTP servlet class, right? So it instruction to the compiler or the development tool in special meaning that yes, this is the class, this is the method which already there in the HTTP servlet, but it is used by the user for their point of view. It gives the meaning to the annotation. Annotations based development is certainly one of the latest Java development trends. 1.5 Java 1.5 onwards, most of the compiler tools which supports the annotations. Annotations can be applied to several Java elements like package declaration, class, constructor, methods, fields, variables, etc. See, annotations can be applied on the Java elements. So if you look into the Java elements, almost all elements of Java, it can be used that annotation. Annotations can be used almost all elements of the Java. So package declaration, very the beginning of every Java code, it begins with the package declaration. Class, every Java needs a class. Constructors, every class needs a constructors. Methods, every class has the method to access the member variables of the class. Fields, without fields, no class, no constructor, no methods. And variables are the intermediary accessible identifier which can be used. So most probably almost all the Java elements which uses the annotations. Annotation can be applied to almost all Java elements. So what is the goal? So now we came to know that what is annotation. Now what is the goal of the annotation? What is the purpose? Already we are defining, declaring, doing inheritance, overloading, overriding, everything we done directly. So what is the role of annotation? What is the goal? What is the goal of annotation? It allows the programmer to provide additional information about the program. So additional information about the program. This information can be used by software engineering tools. Whenever parsing the program, the compiler identifies which is the user defined method, which one is the overridden method. So if you use do post without overridden, it might be a part of the HTTP servlet, it might be a part of your custom defined servlet. So to overcome an ambiguity between that do post method of both the servlet, so that usually you are extending the HTTP servlet to implement your custom defined servlet. So in that case, the HTTP servlet method which has the process request, do post, do get methods, that is going to be implemented in your custom defined methods, right? So this annotations helps for software engineering tools to process the information quickly. An annotation is a type defined using an interface like syntax. How you are defining interface in the Java? Interface public, interface name. Annotation is similar to that interface declaration, but we are using symbol. Symbol along with the interface. An annotation can be specified whenever a modifier is allowed. What is modifier? Which are the modifiers present in the annotation? Java, public, private, protected, final, static. All these are called as modifiers. So annotations can be specified whenever a modifier is allowed. Wherever that modifier, public, static, void, main, modifier is allowed, static is allowed, final is allowed. All those modifiers, wherever you using the modifiers in the code, so along with that modifier, you can use the annotations. So convention, usually regular convention of usage is before the public or static modifier, you are using the annotations. So annotations do not affect the semantics of the class. Suppose if you declare the class car. Class car. Car has a default constructor as well as parameterized constructors, and which has the methods like accelerator. See, accelerator is the method which used for the car. Same accelerator we can use it for riding the bike also. Same accelerator we can use it for flying the flight also. Same accelerator we can use it for riding the train also. Getting accelerator is a common method which is used for the cars. For in our example, cars example, annotation do not affect the semantic, meaning it won't changes the meaning of the class. Instead of that, it will provide the in detail information with respect to the class to the compiler for the processing, but may affect semantics of things using the class. So where you are using that accelerator, either in using it for three-wheeler or two-wheeler or four-wheeler or the sailing on the sea or on the cloud, etc. Depending on the object type which you are going to use, means it will provide that information, similar information. So it uses tools, code generation, runtime options, etc. You can use annotations within the tool. NetBeans tool, it uses annotations, code generation, Visual Studio Code, or any built-in IDEs which uses the code generation. It uses that annotation. Then runtime options. During runtime also you can introduce the annotations to provide the proper meaning to the code. Then, yes, we have seen what is annotation, what is the goal of annotations. Now, how the syntax of annotation and how we can create our custom annotation. See one example which is taken here. So as I told, similar to your interface, you can create your annotations. See, public is a modifier is used, public modifier is used, interface keyword is used. Here you created the interface name, but here you are not calling it as interface, you are calling this as a annotation. Why? Because the @ key symbol is used to define your own annotations, customized annotation. So the syntax of defining annotation is the modifier, public, static, final, etc. Those modifiers, @ symbol, interface, keyword, and the custom defined annotation name. So this annotation, wherever I am going to use my annotations, it will have a method. It will return the method value is string value it is going to return. Do something is the method you are defining under this my annotation. So how you can use this annotation? My annotation is going to be used in our code by passing do something is something equal to the message, some string message, what to do. What to do is the string message onto the do something you are passing as a parameter to the my annotation method, and this my method is going to implement this do something. Okay, this is the some sample way to make use of the annotation. And see some basic structure which it uses the how the compiler, where what is the where what is the phase of the compiler, it is going to identify the annotation. So this is normal Java source file, then it parses and it will translate with, again it will check with the type checker. If any program with annotations is present during the parsing phase, it will go and check with the type checker what type of the annotation you are doing. There are 7 types of annotations along built-in annotations and custom annotations. There are total 7 types. It is going to check among 7 types which type checker of that annotations which this code is used, and after that if any error is present, it will again you need to debug and correct it again. Source file parser type checker, if there is no error, annotation checker, it will checks and plugins that annotations to the compiler. Then finally that class file is going to be right. So after compiler successful compilation of any Java source file, it leads to a dot class file. So in between, this is the phase in which the annotation checker is involved. Source file, parse, and locate for the type of the checker. After that successful identification of that checker, then annotation checker is going to create a plugin for the code, and that plugin is going to be embed, and it is going to create a class file for your Java program. This is the structure of Java file compiler. Why Java file here? Because annotations supported from Java 1.5 onwards. 1.5 onwards. Custom animation. So far we have seen how to how to create the custom annotation, and how you can use that code in the uh, regular. Then now you are going to learn the custom annotations. In the custom annotation, there are several. One is built-in annotation. Predefined annotations are also called as built-in annotations. Which are those? Probably you might observe this override. Several times this override annotations we used in our code. Yes, what it will tell: assert intention to override a method in a superclass. Compiler fails if not actually overriding. So because variety of versions of JDK is widely used in this world, whenever compiler fails to identify the overriding method which is used in the subclass but derived from the superclass, when the compiler fails to identify this is the already existing method present in superclass that is implemented in the subclass, if that compiler fails, in that case annotation checker uh, makes help the compiler. Yes, it is overridden method, you can compile. Overridden method, you can compile. These predefined annotations tells insist to the compiler to properly identify the override method and provide the appropriate semantic to that method, and give execute that and create a dot class file. It is insisting to the annotation compile to the Java compiler. So checks spelling, override versus overload. So there is difference between override and overload. What is override? What is override? Anybody in the group, what is override? Override and overload. What is override? In a class called as car, in the class car, there is a method named as accelerator. There is a method named as accelerator. Accelerator without parameter, accelerator with parameter. I have two methods called as, one is accelerator without parameter, accelerator with parameter. Accelerator without parameter is you can accelerator at maximum speed. Accelerator with parameter is based on the constraint tire capacity and vehicle engine capacity. Based on that, you are going to control the acceleration, right? So if in the same class which will have two accelerator method, so depending on the parameter condition, parameter values, that corresponding method is invoked by the compiler, that is called as overload. You are overloading depending on the parameter value, you are overloading the methods. Whereas override, if that car is extended by the rail engine, so you are creating a class called as rail. It extends the cars. Rail also have the cars which the with the accelerator. If with accelerator with parameter, if that accelerator with parameter which is reused in your rail engine cars, then that method is called as overridden method, right? This override annotations, predefined annotations, which will checks, spell checks, which is overridden or which is overload, it will provide a proper meaning to the Java compilers. Very interesting topic and important, especially when you go and develop the real-time Java applications in enterprise-wide applications. Annotations concepts are very widely used. And the second predefined annotations is deprecated. What is deprecated? In JDK 1.1, some of the classes deprecated, some of the packages deprecated. Those packages are not used anymore in the Java JDK 1.6 onwards. So to identify such deprecated lines, the annotation checker adds a deprecated, indicates that an element should not be used. When Java compiler is passing the code during that time, if any older code which is used, older uh, POJO, plain old Java objects, if you used in development of the Java applications, but it is implemented for the recent usage. In that case, during the compilation, that compilation will not identify what method you used. In that case, annotations adds that the deprecated. The another annotation is built in. A predefined annotation is suppress warning. Some compiler tells the compiler to suppress the specific warnings. So warnings can ignore. Warnings can ignore. If the warnings become serious, that becomes a error of the program. So warnings usually sometimes you may fail to follow some rules, right? So in that case, somebody will ignores you. Means it is not that much, but the purpose is solved. Purpose is going to solve, but not seriously. You are not following some certain rules which is defined in the Java applications. So in the such cases, some warning messages the compiler is going to throw. In that case, this annotations adds overridden suppress warning. It suppresses the warning which will be thrown by the Java compiler or the development tools, right? These are the predefined annotations. Most widely we used override and deprecated and suppress warning. Let me know if any questions are there. Then annotation types. Annotation types. Marker annotation, single element annotation, full value or multi-value annotation. There are three types of annotations: marker, single element, full value or multi-value. What is marker annotation? Marker annotations take no parameters. They are used to make a Java element to be processed in a particular way. Marker annotation won't accept the parameters, but they are used to mark a Java element to be processed in a particular way. For example, public @interface my annotation. You are not defined any parameters here for the my annotations. Here my annotation act as a marker annotation. What it suggests @my annotations, what it is going to suggest, you do as usual what you want to do. And the second annotation type is single element. Single element or single value type annotations provide a single piece of data only. This can be represented with a data value pair or simply with the value shortcut syntax within the parameter. So example is, so it uses at least one parameter. At least one parameter. You are defined public @interface, name of the annotation, my annotation, one parameter value, do something, do something. So how you can use this annotation? @my annotation within the bracket. You are, so in the previous example, some do something equal to what to do. Previously it was defined. That's one way of defining. Another way is shortcut, a shortcut syntax. Directly you are passing what to do to the do something parameter. Then what to do is passed to the method to do some processing. Is a single element. And the third is full value or multi value. Full value or multi value. Full value type annotations have multiple data members. It is not only the methods which that is going to be used in the code, it will have the fields also, it will have one more method also. Example, public @interface my annotation string do something, this one parameter, second parameter int count, second parameter, third parameter date. So use it. How you can use this annotation here? @my annotation do something equal to what to do. The earlier example continued here. So what to do? Count equal to 1, date equal to some date you assign to that field or the string, and public void my method do something. So for multi-valued, how you can use usage is my annotation do something usage. Yes, any questions? Any questions? Fine. Okay, I hope you are following my this one, discussion. So built-in annotations. Built-in annotations. Java defines 7 built-in annotations. Java defines 7 built-in annotations. 4 are imported from java.lang.annotations. 3 are included in java.lang. Means, so while developing the lang in the 1.5 onwards, annotation, this package comes along with the java.lang. 3 more are included in java.lang. These are additional ones. Additional ones already we have discussed in the previous slide: override, deprecated, suppress warning. So these 4 are which comes from the package dot annotation. Which are those? Retention, documented, target, and inherited. Retention, documented, target, and inherited. So we have seen override, deprecated, suppress warnings. Now we are going to see retention, documented, target, and inherited. This is repeated statement. Okay. Override. Yeah, override example. Some example for override is so class parent calculate is used. You are extending the class parent. Again, calculation is used here. Here different calculation. Here different calculation. Since child uses the parent class calculate, so this method should is going to be override. Same car example what I have given that. So override. It's a insistential to the. So deprecated some of the codes which deprecated. This is already I discussed in the previous slide. Now let's go with documentation. Let us go with documentation. Is any doubt till last slide? Did you got something with respect to the annotation? Okay, we'll cover this documentation, retention, uh, documentation, retention, uh, target, and inherit in the next class. Any questions?